watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome to another episode of Focus on Germantown. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mayor Mike Palazzolo, and it's my privilege to be your mayor and host. Each month, the focus is on city government and how it provides services and works with you, our citizens, to make Germantown a great place to live. We will begin today's show by talking with CERT instructor Keith Saunders about CERT, a program the city offers to prepare citizens for emergency and disaster situations. Then Pam Beasley, Director of Parks and Recreation, will be dropping by to give us an update on the Parks Master Plan and discuss volunteer opportunities through the department. Finally, we will end today's show by talking about development in our city. Economic and Community Development Director Cameron Ross will join us to talk about all the latest projects going on in Germantown. But first, I'd like to welcome Keith Saunders to the show. Keith, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mayor. Good to be here.
Well, we have known each other for a long time, and
Yes.
I hate to mention this in our show today. I didn't realize how much time you had spent being a volunteer coordinator in our city for CERT. Tell us a little bit about what CERT stands for.
CERT is an acronym for Citizens Emergency Response Team. It was developed by the Los Angeles Fire Department back in around '85. It was taken over by FEMA and is spread throughout all 50 states as a means to help citizens learn a little bit more about how to be prepared for disaster.
The programming, matter of fact, I am a graduate and alum of the CERT training. It's been a number of years, and we were talking before the show today about how many classes have you instructed and about how many people of our 40,000 have been through the CERT program?
I've been personally involved in about 37, 38 classes, on the average about 20 to 25 people per each class. So all our classes together, we're probably pushing around over 1,000 people have been trained in the city of Germantown.
That's amazing, because if we do have that tornado, that train derailment, some catastrophic event, we will know that our neighborhoods are prepared. What are some of the skills that are taught in these sessions?
It ranges from learning how to properly use a fire extinguisher so you can put fires out, basic first aid that's in regard to a natural disaster, search and rescue in that rate, and then some of the other things that go along with understanding what a natural disaster brings.
Well, and I know that when I went through the program, and I'm not a handyman and I'm not good with things around the house, but you also teach things where, like for instance, how to shut off your gas, where the water connection is, other things that some people take for granted.
This is true. We try to let them know where those things are located in most houses or residential complexes so that they do understand to be able to turn those off and take care of an emergency situation.
Now, I know that if you go through the training, you are certified and you get some sort of a kit. Explain like what's in the kit, and perhaps that person in that neighborhood or that cove or that area, what are some of their responsibilities?
Well, basically, as a city, we provide what we classify as the minimum personal protective devices, which is a hard hat, gloves, some form of goggles, leather gloves, those type of things that they need to start out with, and perhaps replenish them as they go along. But it's the basic kit, along with a bag that they can put those in, and we let them take those with them so that they'll be able to use those in the event of a natural disaster.
I still have mine in my home office, and actually I'm the president of my small HOA, and we have a rally point in different areas. So if there is a disaster, explain a little bit about that, because again, when there's a natural disaster, there are power lines out, there's there's water going everywhere, maybe natural or gas is leaking, all those different things.
Well, one of the things about a natural disaster is that first responders are going to be overwhelmed, so they're not going to be able to come right away. So you need to be prepared to handle something up to 96 hours or more on your own. So if you're trained as a CERT person, then you're able to work with others that have been trained and help out your neighborhood to bring it together and maintain, you know, an order and supply the necessary foods, first aid, things of those nature to make the getting through that natural disaster much easier.
Well, I think you kind of hit on it. Why is it so important? Because again, the first responders, we're very proud of our police, our fire department, but again, in a major disaster, a catastrophe, they're only going to have so many resources. So you've got to kind of prepare your neighborhood to kind of get prepared, hunker down, and be ready for them to come. It may not be within the hour, it may be the next day.
It could be days, actually, and we use the terminology, the first one you see may be the Oregon National Guard, because it just depends on how widespread the disaster is. So you need to be prepared not only to help your family, but to help those around you.
Well, and again, during the training, which you've led so many classes, there is some very beginning first aid. Maybe talk a little bit about that, setting bones. I mean, you're not doing things that are complex, but
no.
or getting people stable, I guess.
We're basically stabilizing them, taking care of wounds that would have bleeding so that you can control the bleeding. We teach them how to do splinting and various things of that nature. We classify it as backyard first aid. It's more than having a first aid kit with Band-Aids in it. You've got to be able to take care of someone and save them and put them in a life safety measure.
Well, and again, some of the things I learned, I'm not sure, it's been probably about 8 or so years so I've been through the class, but you know, in a time of emergency, oftentimes we were doing a better job as a society planning for rations and that type of thing. One of the most important things is having potable drinking water. And so give our viewers a little bit of tips on where can you go find water when everything is shut off?
Well, quite a few places there. One of the things that a lot of residents still have a hot water heater that has anywhere from 30 to 50 gallons. That's potable water. It can be used. As simple as going out in the backyard if you have a swimming pool and pulling it out and taking care of it and sanitizing, using it to get the water that way, because if it's a earthquake, you may not have city water. The pipes may be broke, so you need to be able to find those sources. You also need to have enough water on hand to get you going. So, the average person takes about a gallon a day, so you need to take that in consideration. Well,
I tell you, I was amazed when I learned about my hot water heater because, again, not being a handyman or anything, I would have never known that there was a supply there. At least, if I rationed properly, I would be able to last for a number of days, if not longer. Well, how does one, or when are the classes offered? Because it's not just a couple hours. Tell the people what they're signing up for.
No, it's basically a 20-hour course. It's taught over 2 Saturdays and a Friday evening. We go through about 8 different modules training you. The city of Germantown, right now, I assume you would go through the fire department to get that information. Our next class is actually scheduled for April the 13th and 14th, and the following Saturday, the 21st. All of them are at Station 4 with the fire department on Forest Hill, Irene Road in the training room.
Well, great. And you've got time to sign up for April. You can find out that information at our website at www.germantown-tn.gov. We really appreciate your volunteerism, your dedication to our fire department. A lot of people don't know this. Your son's one of our assistant chiefs and does a great job for us as well. And you've been one of those families in our town that always steps up and helps lead. So thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Germantown takes great pride in being a safe community. It is important for residents to take the next step and learn how to be better prepared when disaster strikes. We have to take a short break, but when we come back, we will meet with Director of Parks and Recreation, Pam Beasley.
So there you are, shuffling through a stack of resumes and you come to mine. This is it, first impression, my way in. But can my resume show you how I truly stand out? Like that I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or being the first one to always step up. No, that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent that is dedicated, hardworking, and determined like me.
party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back to Focus on Germantown. The Germantown Parks and Recreation Department is in the midst of a planning to refresh the look of our park system. Here to give us an update on the Parks Master Plan and ways you can get involved through the department is Pam Beasley. Pam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mayor.
It's always good to have you. I love talking about parks. I've been an active park user for years. I've coached. I've been on our Parks Commission, and now it's getting close to springtime. So that's the time that our parks really kind of come to life and they're kind of reborn after winter. And speaking of being reborn, we are looking at a Parks Master Plan. We've spent a lot of time and resources over the last almost a year with our consultant, and we're almost to that point of adoption, implementation, those type things. So please share with our residents maybe about how long the process lasts and what they can expect.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I think what I want to do is just do a recap really quick. So one of the first things that we did in starting to develop a comprehensive plan was to secure a really good team. And what we did is we put together a design team that represented different firms who in their industry had different niches. And so our lead design firm was Lowson Associates out of Nashville. They've done a number of greenway projects all over the country. That is their focus. They partnered with Perez Consulting Firm, and they're a firm out of Florida, and their focus is on community engagement and how to really make sure that the process is driven by the citizens. And then finally, they partnered with another firm that really had expertise in the park master planning aspect. And so when you combine all those things and all those disciplines, we felt like we had a very strong team to deliver a product that our citizens could embrace. To your point, we began the citizen engagement portion of the project in early June. And we had 3 public meetings, 3 opportunities for citizens to sit down with the design team. And during those sessions, we actually engaged the citizens and asked them to provide us information, not just about what they wanted to see in the parks, but how they're currently using the parks and what would be what changes would they like to see. And if I could have a t-shirt printed, I think I might print one that says, "We want it all." Because
we are used to expecting that in our community.
We are. But one of the most exciting aspects for me as your Parks Director about this process was the fact that in the public engagement part of the program, we not only did these meetings, but we also did an online survey. We had over 700 respondents take an online survey, and then in addition to that, as you know, the Park and Recreation Commission, which is a citizen-based grassroots group that oversees parks and park planning, they decided to expand their group during the planning process to include not just those 9 members on the commission, but to reach out to other civic groups, organization partners, sports providers who needed a seat at the table so that we could understand what their needs and their use patterns were. So you take another 30 groups along with the individual citizens who represent households. So we had a total of over 900 people engage in conversation, and of those 900, they represented families of 2, 3, 4, and up, and they also represented organizations made up of 60 members or 80 members or 150 members. So when you look at that broadly, you're talking several thousand people involved in the conversation. And so you might ask, what did they say? And so to recap, and I think living in Germantown for as long as we have, some of these were not surprising answers. Being safe in parks is very important to our citizens. Having a sense of community and a sense of community pride and family-oriented activities and options, very important. Trails, bikes, and greenways, very important to our citizens. They like to walk. It's not surprising, walking is the #1 recreation activity in the country. And then finally, retaining our sense of small town, but having big town amenities. And so with all of that said, and looking at our 29 parks, the design team went through an assessment of all of the parks and identified renovations and repairs needed over the course of time. I need to remind everyone that this is a long-range plan, 15 and 20-year plan, but it took into account how things have changed since some of those parks were developed early in 1970, 1980. And so that said, many of our neighborhood parks, mini parks, pocket parks, are not in need of redesign, they're in need of refresh. And so just identifying how to bring those parks up to standards. But then there are several of our major parks that aren't functioning in a way for today's needs. And so we identified several of those that, if I could, I'll just recap.
Sure.
One is Municipal Park. As you know, Germantown, we have a strong heritage and history here, but unlike other small towns in West Tennessee, we do not have a court square. But we do have Municipal Park, which I call it the center of the city, the athletic club, GPAC, City Hall, the post office, the library. That, if anyone said, where's the center of Germantown, I think most citizens would identify that area of Germantown as the center. And so that said, we're looking at building a public space that is a gathering place and that could support events and functions and such. And then looking at how to reimagine all of the parks on Poplar Pike and trying to coordinate those in a way that there's flow and access to them. Right now, they all operate independently. Looking at Cameron Brown, our most used youth athletic complex, and how to redefine that, and then looking at the potential of acquiring additional parkland to address all of those expansion needs.
Wow, you know, I love having you on the show because I don't have to ask very many questions. You are a wealth of knowledge. Quickly, you only have about 20 seconds. You've got a volunteer opportunity for Rangers. Maybe just share with our audience a little bit about that.
Yes, so as you know, we had the Bike and Pedestrian Task Force working on our Greenway plan, and out of that we looked at how to involve volunteers on the Greenway. So we are implementing a Greenway volunteer unit. They would be park ranger reserves. If anyone is interested, they can call the parks office and I can get you connected into that program.
That is awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. After this short break, we will speak with Economic and Community Development Director Cameron Ross.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Of all the things you've done with your bike, donating it to Goodwill may be the most incredible of all. Your donations help fund job placement and training for people in your community, which means your stuff can be more powerful than you think. Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back once again to Focus on Germantown. Here with us now is Economic and Community Development Director Cameron Ross. Welcome to the show, Cameron.
Thank you, Mayor. Good to be here.
Lots of things going on in Germantown, no doubt about that, economic development-wise. Let's just jump right into a project known as Thornwood. Thornwood is where the beautiful town clock and fountains are located, and also some public space as well near the intersection of Neshoba and Germantown Road, actually right at the intersection. Please help our viewers understand the genesis of that project and where it is, where it came from, where it is now, where it's going.
So we've been working with the developer, Spence Ray and McNeil Commercial Real Estate, on this project for just a little over 3 years. The project is our first true mixed-use project in the city of Germantown on approximately 19 acres. It is really on the north end of our central business district. It's the anchor, as we like to call it, and you've got a 110-room Hampton Inn and Suites. Bob Richards has built his own building and created a flagship jewelry store here in Germantown. And then currently under construction are approximately 275 multifamily units that are all 1 and 2 bedroom units. And then there's another 36,000 square feet of retail that is on the ground floor at the corner of Germantown Road and Neshoba.
And also we sometimes forget about the residential component that was once part of Thornwood that is across the street. Maybe go over that project a little bit.
Thank you for that reminder, Mayor. The Somerset subdivision that is currently being built out by Regency Home Builders is proving to be a great success. They have about 10 lots left in the subdivision, so go ahead and go out and take up those remaining lots. It's our understanding that those lots, those houses, are some of the highest per square foot real estate in Shelby County right now, which is a testament to the success of that development and to the mix of uses and location, lifestyle, placemaking types of ideas and developments that we, the city of Germantown, are moving forward with in our key commercial areas.
Some people, mixed use means different things to different people. Have there been any announcements for shops yet in the retail portion of Thornwood, or maybe some themes that you can share with us?
So the developer has always planned to have 2 or 3 restaurants. He hopes for 4, but he's making sure that he's got at least 3 so that he can cover the spectrum of a fast casual, a breakfast, and then a white tablecloth or something a little bit more upscale to complement GPAC. You know, he recognizes his proximity and their shared audience that they may have. And so he has signed contracts with Nukes, and then he's also moving forward with a gift and other home accessories, home goods type of local business run by Germantown residents called Bella Vita and Itty Bitty Bella. They're both currently in Collierville, but moving over to Germantown, and we're happy to have the owners of that both live and work in Germantown, which leads towards the elevator speech of a mixed-use area of live, work, and play, and being able to do all 3 in the same general area is really what we're looking for.
Well, and surely this project has it, because you have single-family residential, you have multifamily, you've got live workspace, you have lodging, retail, restaurants, and perhaps some office space. And across the street, we'll eventually break ground on the Grove at GPAC, an outdoor amphitheater, and do some streetscape improvements on Exeter as well. Shifting gears a little bit to another project on our Western Gateway, Travure. Share with us again a little bit of background on that project.
So that project has also been under development for about 4 years, starting with a small area plan and working with the owners of that 10-acre site, Guild Properties, to develop another mixed-use site that includes a 150,000 square foot office building, a 2-flag hotel, Hilton Garden Inn, and a Home 2 Suites. The office building is going to be home to Mid-America Apartments, moving to Germantown, making their corporate headquarters in Germantown. A little bit of background on Mid-America that I think is a pretty incredible statistic for Germantown is it's the 4th largest company in the Memphis area, and it's also the largest real estate investment trust by unit volume in the country, and it's calling Germantown home. Hopefully by the end of March is when they intend to move into the 90,000 square feet that they're taking of that 150,000 square foot building.
You mentioned hotel and office, and then also it has another component all in the same area in that 10 acres in which that would be?
Yes, sir. There's another building that they've yet to start on, but they will be breaking ground on shortly. It has been approved as part of their plans, and it'll have 36,000 square feet of retail on the ground floor, and then 2 other floors above it with office space, making it a mixed-use building on the site. And they're looking for restaurants. They'll have a gym feature that will be able to be utilized by both the hotel guests as well as Mid-America and other users of the office space.
And just to recap, Thornwood should be complete sometime in what time range?
We're hoping for late summer, early fall for all 5 phases that are currently under construction to be completed.
And MAA at Travure should expect to take occupancy of their building approximately?
Late March, early April.
We have about 30 seconds left. Tell us about some of the new stores at Saddle Creek, because it's almost complete and all leased up.
Yes, we're very excited to have a new restaurant opening on the east end of what they call Building D, but it's the building right on Poplar and West Street, and it will be a restaurant where you and I will be able to enjoy biscuits and donuts and coffee, and then walk back to City Hall to work off all the good food that we'll have there.
That is awesome. Thank you, Cameron, for sharing that info and that update on economic development. We appreciate your time here today.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'd like to thank all of my guests for being on the show today. I'd also like to thank you, the viewers, for taking the time to focus on Germantown. If you'd like more information about this or any of the other shows on Germantown Municipal Television, please visit www.gmtvonline.org. We'll see you when Focus on Germantown returns next month.